for feet to be with you. I was expecting a group full of 40, because I know it used to be a really big group, so this is really nice, so really come to a more intimate group so you can make it much more informal and interactive. So yes, I am a health coach, and I will tell you more about that in a while, but you know, the best sessions are always interactive, and the reason that this one might be interactive is because I got that whole thing going on where I can't remember words. So feel free to finish my sentences or fill in the missing nouns, not a problem at all. Let's start really positively, and this is how I would start any health coaching session, and look at what's going well, what your top strengths are, for example. So I wonder if that's something that you thought about, probably not recently. What are your strengths?
I can talk.
Actually, Joanne will know. So, Joanne, what are your top two strengths?
Can't remember.
Kindness and honesty.
Yeah, they're the top two.
So there are 24 different strengths and virtues that are highly regarded across all cultures and have been over millennia. Things like creativity, humility, gratitude, hope, social intelligence, forgiveness. Or did any of those resonate with you? And your top 5 are regarded as your signature strengths, so they are your core character and what make you you. So the top 5 on this person, I don't think, no, it's not me, it's not my one, are creativity, curiosity, humour, love and perspective. So yeah, I just want you to think about yourself. If you had to choose your 2 top strengths, what they might be. You've got pads, if you want to write anything down that occurs to you, then that would be good. Next question then, when are you at your happiest? When are you in bliss or in flow? Are you a creative person and you just love to make things? Is it when you're out in nature? Or is it with your family? Is it when you've got food in front of you? When are you at your happiest? And when did you last do that thing? It's maybe something you loved doing as a child, but you haven't done for a long time. Right, so let's kick off properly then. So what do muffins and hot flashes have to do with one another? And I'd love to say that this was a joke with a great punchline, but it's not. It's the theme of what we're going to talk about tonight, actually. And I will give you the answer and the story behind that shortly. Basically, it's along the round that sugar is not our friend. And if we want to get our symptoms really alleviated and balanced, then the 2 key things we can do is look at sugar and at stress. So blood sugar management from the sugar side and stress, because what happens if we get menopause plus inflammation, which these cause, then we see much more severe symptoms. But first a little bit about me, my background. So as Catherine said, thank you for the introduction, I'm a health coach, a functional medicine trained health coach. I wasn't always one though, so I am passionate about making people feel better, hence the name of my company, Feel Well. I was born in Worcestershire, down in the Midlands. I spent all of my childhood there, and I invaded the North East in 1996 when I came up to study languages. I did, gosh, a long time ago, Spanish, German and Russian at Durham. Met a man, fell in love, and the rest they say is history, and he stayed on to do a PhD, so I was very happy to stay. One of my friends went south to London, fools, and here I am, over half my life later, and I consider myself a northerner, if people accept me. And then in 2013, so I've been working in industry on Teesside for many years. Yep, that's the Durham picture, I love that view. I have been working for 20 years in industry, actually on Teesside, so again not that far from here in the chemical industry. But 2013 my mum was diagnosed with an incurable cancer of the blood called myeloma. And really that was quite life-changing for me. I spent the next 5 years up and down 200 miles of the motorway, juggling, looking after her, she was divorced, living alone, looking after my 2 young children, travelling abroad a lot with my job, being very busy, quite a stressful job if I'm honest. And then in 2018 she spent her final days in a hospice in Worcestershire, and this was that place. And literally that was life-changing, life-defining for me, and I suddenly thought, why am I selling chemicals? What am I doing here? Do I want to do this for the next 20 years? No, I want to do this. I want to be in palliative care. I want to look after people and make them feel, and give them the dignity that my mum had, and just help them, because I'd seen her navigate the NHS system and seen how tricky it was. Didn't really want to retrain to be a nurse. but really wanted to be in health. So I resigned from a job without anything to go to, but was determined to force my own hand. Maybe it was turning 40 at the time as well, a bit of a midlife crisis. But fortunately, I found work in a hospice in St Teresa's Hospice in Darrington, and that's where I've been for the last 4 years until this July, actually. Whilst I was there, I've been retraining. I trained initially as a sort of health coach and reached that stage of like what they call conscious incompetence, when you know a little bit and then you think, gosh, there's so much more to know. So I then went off to seek a really, really highly regarded international course, which is the Functional Medicine course of America. So if you come across the likes of Mark Hyman, for example, or the Institute for Functional Medicine ever, then that's those guys. And it means that I can now be part of the UK Health Coaches Association because they uphold really rigorous standards. Unfortunately, this is one of those industries that's self-regulated, and there are some cowboys out there who call yourself a health coach with a few weeks online course. So my plea to anybody is really, if you ever work with a coach or a therapist or a counsellor, always just check out their credentials, just to make sure that they really have been through rigorous training and they know what they're doing. Oh yes, so my own hormone story I was going to share. So I'm 45, and just a few months ago I started to think, something feels a bit different. Now fortunately I've got lots of friends who are a bit older and have been through sort of perimenopause, and even some sort of out the other side of that. And I was aware of some of the symptoms, the joint pains, what else, anxiety for the first time some of them had had. I'd had previous experience of anxiety, so that wasn't a new one. But I was starting to not sleep so well, feeling like a lot more anxiety, mood fluctuations. I just thought, I guess I'm quite attuned to my body, maybe being a health coach too. I thought, well, if I just go straight to the doctor, because I know that we can do a lot for ourselves. So I went to a nutritional therapist who I know and trust very well, and she said, yeah, what you need to do is this Dutch test, a hormone test. Now this is all quite complex, but what it told us basically was that my estrogen levels were really, really high, which is why I wasn't feeling great. So obviously, normally at this stage, they're dropping out there, but I'm not obviously quite there yet. And it would explain maybe why I had to have some fertility treatment to have my children, why I've never had regular periods. Maybe that's never been right, but I only just found out by doing the test. And what she was able to say from that is actually, here's what you can do to help yourself. So a number of supplements to help with the estrogen metabolisation, more cruciferous vegetables, and just things like magnesium glycinate at night to help with sleep. And honestly, within about 4 or 5 weeks, I feel very different now. The main thing that's changed is real clarity of thought. I was really struggling with work, and that whole brain fog thing going on. It's so debilitating, isn't it? So feeling much, much better. And this is honestly my belief that food is medicine, and there's so much data now to back this up. So through eating, just boosting things like more flaxseed, my cereal, a big spoonful now rather than just a little teaspoon, more broccoli, more cauliflower, things like that. There's a lot that we can do naturally to help ourselves. Oh, there we go. So this is some of the things. If you meet any nutritional therapists, they'll always go on about dark green leafy veg, and you would have heard this quite a lot. I'm doing a course with this at the moment. I work with a nutritional therapist, talking about how food really impacts our mental health and our physical health. So first, a little bit of context, because I think everything fits around how we've evolved as humans. So this is a graph showing the rate of change along here, and then the span of human evolution, obviously not to scale, along here. So we have the dawn of man, and we've been going along, evolving, hunter-gatherer, tribes, and then about 10,000 years ago we had the agricultural revolution, and things really started to change, both in terms of how we produced our food, how we lived, and much more plentiful food. And then not that long after, really, in the grand scheme of things, we've gone through such a huge, huge change. So the Industrial Revolution over 200 years ago, mechanisation, a lot more pollution, completely lost touch with the land and the way that we used to live, lived in completely different family structures, different communities. Then we've had the technological revolution, so electricity, lights, computers come, not that long after. Our lives have just transformed beyond really recognition, but our bodies pretty much the same as they were. first generation to ever live like this. And there's this massive evolutionary gap between how we are now and how we were designed to be. And you'll see as I go through the talk, kind of really where some of that plays in. So how do we therefore cope with that? And what is functional medicine? So if you break your leg, or you have a heart attack, the NHS is absolutely the place to go, isn't it? It's fantastic. No better service probably on this planet than that. But if you've got a long-term condition that we call chronic health condition, the NHS can sometimes struggle, to be honest, because it's very reductionist. You go to a specialist for this, a specialist for this, and all the pieces of the puzzle of what's going on with you won't always be put together. And that can mean that sometimes you're getting more drugs, and that creates other side effects and other imbalances. And it's not always that helpful. So functional medicine is about getting to the why. Why actually? Not just giving the name of what you've got, but why? Why have you got that? Why do you feel like that? What has gone out of balance? What caused that? So here's a diagram of kind of to help us understand it. So it's not very clear for you guys, is it? But on the bottom here, we've got all those sort of modifiable lifestyle factors, which I'll be talking more about. So things like sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, relationships, really key to our health. Next, we've got the genes that we've inherited, also really important, and we can switch those up or down in many ways by the way that we sleep, the way that we eat, the way that our stress levels are. And then we've got sort of how all things work in our body, and then what happens is all of that works together and creates different signs or symptoms in our health. And that plays out then in all of our organ systems, because they're all completely interrelated. If something goes out of balance in one area, it has a massive effect somewhere else. It isn't always obvious. A lot of NHS doctors are unfortunately getting really disillusioned with the system. It's not what they signed up for, and they don't always feel that they can treat patients as well as they want. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources. So you're actually seeing a lot more functional medicine doctors now in the UK. It's huge in America, and you'll hear more about it increasingly over the next few years here. Unfortunately, only available privately, which is so sad, but I hope that that will change. Because this has to be the way forward. We have to look at people, their complete history. And talking about history, this is the way that a patient would be looked at. So it looks really complex, but just to see what you've got here. So you've got a 34-year-old woman. What we've got here is her family history. So we would look at her parents, grandparents' history, any inherited things genetically. We would look at what her mother's health was like when she was pregnant with her. We would look at the way she was born. So was it C-section or natural birth? We would look at the way they were fed. We would look at childhood illness. So if you were ill a lot as a child and had lots of antibiotics, that knocks out gut health. And your gut health in your childhood affects your health in later life. We would then look at sort of bouts of illness. So these are the different ages when things have occurred. So it says here migraines began, Raynaud's, which is when circulation isn't right, acne, sinusitis, depression, migraines, and then along the top is all of the kind of triggering events. So what traumas or major life events have happened? They knock things out of balance. So we've got children born, quite a trauma for our bodies and our lives, turning things upside down. We've got maybe divorces, or C-sections happened here, lots of antibiotics here, vitamin D deficiency. And then you can't see here that this is an American one. It says Thanksgiving and no water at home, which is hugely stressful, isn't it? Imagine Christmas with no water, that would be our equivalent. So that same patient then, all of that information is being gathered by the doctor and the health coach, and is put together. And so they look at other things. So what kind of diet has this woman? She's got lots of inflammatory foods. It says so she's not eating stuff that's doing her body good. A family history of ulcerative colitis. Lots of stress. Recently had a car accident, and her father had a severe car accident as well. Vitamin D deficiency, some not great gut health, what we call dysbiosis. But also looks at things like mental, spiritual and emotional factors, so really going deep into the core of who it is. This just doesn't happen, does it? With our NHS system, sadly. And then it looks at all of those things we talked about, like the stress, relationships, nutrition, and what's going on with that. And then so therefore you've got a full picture of this person. It's beautiful, really treating them as an individual. So back to that question I said earlier, what do muffins and hot flashes have to do with one another? Well, this was a story from a functional medicine doctor who I highly regard, called Dr. Indra, based in Leeds. And she had cut out a lot of sugar from her diet. But one day, one of her children made a muffin, so she had to have them, don't leave them made at home. And that night she woke up with hot flashes and couldn't sleep, and she hadn't had them before. What on earth was that? And then she realised the next day, of course, she'd had a muffin and sugar, and her body wasn't used to it. And so it manifested that way in the hot flashes that exacerbated the symptom. And that is a classic sugar with hot flashes that people will see. So back to what I was saying about blood sugar management and stress being really, really key factors in the symptoms of perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. So let's touch on sugar first. So imagine this, it says you've just woken up, you feel full of energy, your mind is clear, you get up, have a healthy breakfast. Throughout the day your energy is good, your mood is stable, you're mentally sharp, your concentration's good, you haven't had any energy dips, you haven't become irritable or experienced a single craving. You feel on top of your life. But that's just the inside story, because actually you look great too. Your weight is more or less where you want it to be, you're well toned, your skin has a healthy glow. People often comment on how well you are looking. You feel young physically and mentally, and it's like that every day. Welcome to the new year. And this is not only how you could be, but this is how we all should be. And it says here the journey only takes 30 days. So this is based on a blood sugar balancing diet. And basically what we're trying to avoid is what so many of us have, is this roller coaster we go through each day. You know, so many of us start with a quite sugary breakfast. And so we go way up here, and then mid-morning, what do? We reach for the caffeine, we maybe reach for a biscuit, or some sugary snack to get through to lunchtime where we'll have a sandwich, which is also going to push our glucose levels up. And then by mid-afternoon, we're like, oh. And then so we might reach for some more caffeine, and maybe another sugary snack to get to the next meal. And we're just riding this roller coaster, aren't we? There's so much processed food around. If you go into a petrol station, I went recently and I had such a shock. Honestly, I was looking for a bottle of water and I found one in the corner because everything else was energy drinks, canned drinks, slushes. And this is what our young people are growing up with as well. This is unreal. Our food environment makes it very, very hard not to be like this. So what we're trying to do is really keep it. Yes, there'll be some slight spikes because that's what food does, and it can give you energy. But we want to just maintain a balance. So you probably already know this, carbohydrate-containing food are digested and break down into glucose, so that's the sugar bit. So when we eat carbs, that glucose increases. Glucose is the main fuel for our brain, so it's important, but it's about getting the right sugars. So what should we be eating? There's a clue on the screen. So the balanced plate, again, I know it's a bit small. So this says protein rich here. This says carbohydrate rich, and that's your vegetables. And I don't know about you, but it's not often that I would have eaten half a plate full of vegetables. That's not really the concept of British plate, is it? But that's really what we're aiming for. So it gives you some hand portion ideas here. A palm full of protein, 2 big handfuls of vegetables, a thumbful of fat, and a fist of starchy carbs. That's really great guidance. So what do we want to be eating? So the things that we really want to focus on are those whole unprocessed foods. Food should look like it did when it was grown or when it was reared. And so oats, beans, lentils are great vegetables. Foods that are high in really good fats, like fish if you like it, seeds, really good oils, things like proper virgin olive oil, and a huge range of colourful vegetables. And really what we're trying to get rid of is these fast sugar-releasing carbohydrates and processed foods and vegetables and hydrogenated fats. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know here. So really it's about unlimited vegetables. So we should be having up to 30 different plants, fruits, and seeds and veg in a week. And that sounds like a lot, 30 different ones, but we've been doing a tally, haven't we? We realise it's not that hard to do, particularly breads and nuts and things like that, as the seeds for your breakfast. You can get going straight away, have a salad clocks at level 20 even just in one day. So it's just about being more conscious of that and trying to get lots of colour in there too. So drinks in, drinks out. Just a lot of us don't drink enough water. I think Kathy, you said you've got some monks fruit teas tonight, herbal tea, non-caffeinated drinks, and just really trying to reduce the caffeine, because caffeine is not our friend with perimenopause and menopause symptoms either. And ideally avoiding or reducing alcohol, because what happens with alcohol is we get this lovely sort of relaxed feeling, don't we? We go for it as often a sort of coping mechanism, we like the feeling of it. It produces something called GABA in our brains. But again, going back to that graph about our evolutionary history that we said, our brains don't want to be relaxed at night because that saber-toothed tiger could still be coming that we're expecting. And so it changes the GABA into glutamate and puts us on high alert, which is why you've had even one glass of wine, let alone a bottle. Early hours in the morning, can't sleep and suddenly you're on alert. That's why your body's so clever. That's what's going on. As it says, reduce caffeine slowly, because we don't want to get that whole withdrawal. And you introduced me to kombucha. So just some fruit comparisons. Again, when I went to that nutritional therapist after having the hormone test recently, she looked at my diet. She looked at the impact of the fruits that you're eating will get high in sugar. Some high in things like mango, oranges, pineapple. Those tropical ones tend to be higher in sugar, which I appreciated. So things like berries are great. So it gives you here, this is glycemic load, which is sugars. And it says you can have one large punnet of berries, or you can have 6 raisins, which I prefer. So sort of lower sugar ones are things like berries, cherries, grapefruits, pears, melons, peaches. And as you go further down, banana is one of the highest sugar ones. So absolutely eat banana, but maybe just eat half or a quarter or something rather than the whole one in one serving. Breakfast is really where it starts. I say, often it's a really high sugar breakfast because we've been marketed to by lots of Kellogg's and kind of sold this misnomer that's not right. So savoury breakfast is ideal, really high protein. I was public enemy number 1 in my house a few years ago because I took cereals out completely, because when I began to learn all of this, I thought, what am I doing to my children? I'm sending them off to school with a massive sugar rush, and no wonder they will struggle. And the food in our schools is not doing them any favours either, is it? My 2 sons are now 11 and 14. They come home late and I say, all it was plastic pots and paninis. We just the sugars, and we wonder why they struggle to learn after. It's so sad, compared to many countries, what we are feeding our young people. So what is your breakfast like? Maybe people just set to that to set yourself up for success. Here's some ideas of different sugar levels of cereals. So porridge is great, what's one of the better ones. Special K, people think, it's really healthy. Again, it's all marketing on the box. But actually, the equivalent for 7 glycemic load would be 1 very, very small bowl. This is one very large bowl of oats, much more natural food. So let's see if you're with me and hear me all right. So Jessica used to, what's her name? Sarah Jessica Parker, that's fancy. She used to eat drink freshly pressed orange juice for breakfast. That was her breakfast. These days, she looks amazing still, doesn't she? But she now eats nutty granola with a tablespoon of full-fat yogurt, so you can see which will be better. This is just going to spike up blood sugar juice. It's much better to have a whole fruit because it's got fibre and it slows down the digestion. Right, who rates it best out of these 2? Special K raisins and skim milk, or sourdough with poached egg and avocado? That's what I just said. Yeah, definitely the answer, isn't it? Megan's got it right, but they're both really amazing. So things that we might substitute, easy changes. So maybe instead of rice or couscous, consider cauliflower rice. Instead of rice or couscous, you can have cauliflower rice. So you whiz up the cauliflower in a blender, put it in the microwave, and mix it with a bit of water, and it's tasty. You mix it in with what you think is really much healthier for you, and you're not going to get that spike of blood sugar. Instead of mashed potato, again, you could have mashed cauliflower or butternut squash or butter beans or celery, something like that. Roast potatoes you could replace with roast butternut. Spaghetti you could make maybe courgette instead. Lasagna you might replace with sliced aubergines. Bread buns, you might have a large mushroom to replace the bread or at least one piece of it. And instead of using wraps, you could use large lettuce leaves instead of those. So they're just easy switches. So my top tip is to try and eat the rainbow. Just think about how many different colours of fruit and veg you can cram into your day and your week. And even if you just increase it by one, that's really great. Why is that important? Well, it's because it's not only important what you eat, it's important what's inside of you eats as well. So our gut microbiome is full of trillions and trillions of bacteria, and they are responsible for producing the majority of our neurotransmitters in our brain. So we've got this connection, you may have heard something called the vagus nerve, and that links our brain and our gut, and it's bidirectional. So whatever goes on in here affects how you feel. Things like serotonin, connected to our mood, really important about what we're eating and that. And equally, what goes on up here affects our gut. So if you've ever had a really stressful day and you've gone to the toilet, you might have seen how that looks. So really, really important what we're eating for our mental health as well, particularly at this period of life. So these are the microbiomes, and it's really important that we've got them in the right ratio. So if you think of factories and like the different departments, you want the right amount of workforce in each department. So if we're eating too many sugary things, all the little microbiomes develop very slowly on them, and they'll get out of balance with the other ones. So we've got to feed them the right stuff to have that right balance. This is what a healthy gut looks like. Our gut is only one layer thick, so it's incredibly sensitive. What happens if we have food that isn't fully digested or our gut isn't able to cope with, those bits of food get into our bloodstream, and our body immediately brings alarm bells and thinks there's some kind of negative intruder. Think of it like an airport security going off, beep, 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 and that circulates and triggers this inflammatory response. Over time then we might get something called leaky gut, which you might have heard of, or gut dysbiosis. And if you've got food sensitivities, this is potentially what's going on for you. Your body is thinking it's a foreign body, it's an enemy, and attacking. So IBS is the classic sign of this. But over long term, things like autoimmune conditions and even Alzheimer's can be caused by leaky gut. Even in your area, we can do a lot to it. But things that are causing it are those things we've talked about. Things like toxicity from industrial labor, things like stress as well. So Dee and I had a quick chat at the start. I'm a tropical ambassador as well because it's really important what we put on our skin as well. So our skin is our biggest organ. And so I quickly put my things away because I've never heard of toes, but if you consider tropical retrotropic skincare or things like that are really clean and green, that's highly important, particularly if you've got daughters or babies or just generally, especially at this age of life as well, when hormones and cells go out of balance. The things that we put on our skin into our bodies really affect the endocrine disruptors. So as I said, your gut affects your mood and your mood affects your gut. Yeah, just a bit about water really. Many of us don't drink enough. Just for show of hands, how many of you get up and start your day with a glass of water or a cup of water? Brilliant. That's the majority, which is great. It's not often I get that hungry. Most people, the first thing they go to is the coffee. But if you don't already do that, I really encourage you to do it, because overnight you get dehydrated, particularly if you've got any health issues at this age. And water is literally a wonder fluid, so it helps with things like digestion.
That's not me.
Processing of alcohol, it helps our skin, our hair, it's really important, so the more you can drink, the better. So yeah, your body needs water this reminded me of one of those heads. Did you ever have one? You used to push them. Yeah, girls will. Yeah, girls will. That's a bit of nostalgia. And so yeah, it helps our scalp, our hair, our eyes. It helps us lose weight more easily. Who doesn't want that? And it helps our skin a bit better. So we talked about sugar. I hope I've given you some kind of practical tips on that. And then that second piece that's so important is around stress. And this is the bit that I think is really challenging, particularly as women. So I told you my story. You know, not only was I doing all of those things, I was also chair of the local PTA, volunteering at my church. And I look back and I think, what an absolute idiot. Honestly, I feel such a fool because I put myself under that stress. But how many of us do that? We wear so many hats. We almost feel guilty to sit and do nothing. Literally before I came out tonight, I sat with a meeting and I was like, phone up with it. We can't sit still. It's not normal. We have to learn. It's really important to get into what we call rest and digest state. Our bodies were never meant to be in this calm, stressed state of chronic stress, and it's doing damage to us. So, relaxation. I mentioned very briefly that I had anxiety before, so when my mum was diagnosed with that cancer in 2013, I had my first anxiety attack. I had no idea what was going on with me. Unfortunately, my employer sent me to a counsellor, and the first thing that she did was she drew a picture of my brain, my adrenal glands, and explained the stress response. So what happens in your brain, triggers, you know, those the adrenaline and the cortisol, you know, heart starts to race, and all of those things. And when I understood that, it offered me such relief because I thought I was going mad. You know, I sat there and didn't know what to think, and I would just burst into tears, and my body's just telling us, sending a message, going, hey, all is not well, you know, stop it. We're very disconnected from our bodies these days. We just plow on through, don't we? And certainly I did for a long, long time. It's not just those big stresses, you know, every day we've got micro stresses that add up. So from the moment our alarm goes up and we're in a deep sleep after, particularly this time of year, we might have a grumpy child, a teenager sometimes. It's the best place to get woken up, that's hard work. And we might get stuck in traffic on the way to work, so our heart starts to race. We might have a messy house, a pile of laundry to do, a pile of ironing. We might wake up and our skin doesn't look great, we don't feel great about ourselves. And we might have unexpected illness, you know, it might be us, it might be a child, it might be an elderly relative. So many of us are that sandwich generation now, which is causing stress as well. And then, you know, we have our own stresses that we are putting into our bodies and doing to ourselves. We've mentioned wine, caffeine, products, even things like mold in our house, hugely toxic for our health. And then just the air that we're breathing in as well. There's some research by this Canadian lady about stress, and she said that the stress that really, really gets us is what she called nuts, so new stress that we weren't expecting, so unexpected. Threat to our ego, threat to our being, you know, it's how we perceive it, and we sense a loss of control, and those are definitely the stresses that really, really take their toll on us. So some remedies for stress. Now everybody's different. Your de-stressor might be very different to yours and yours, but I just thought I'd give you a couple of examples that you might not have thought about. So things like Epsom salts, usually good for our health. And it doesn't have to be a whole sitting in the bath, because I don't know I could do that, I just don't have time. It could be just a foot soak once or twice a week. You still get the magnesium and the benefit of that. So that's a nice one, particularly in winter. And then gratitude journaling. Now, there's real, tangible scientific research behind the benefits of gratitude for us. So, it does things like changing inflammatory biomarkers, brings down our stress levels, reduces anxiety, and it can change outcomes with dementia when people are starting to lose verbal abilities if they're practicing gratitude. It's phenomenal, well worth looking into. And it's really simple. You don't have to write pages and pages. You can just do it in your head. You can write it, all the better. But it could be as simple as 3 words, 3 things that you're grateful for that day. But what happens is, as you do it more, it becomes easier, and you start to notice more good things in the world. Now, as humans, again, back to that evolutionary graph I showed you, we have evolved a negative bias, because that's what's kept us alive. We've had to look for dangers to be on high alert, but we don't need to be like that all the time now. However, what happens is we watch the news, we're surrounded by tricky situations and stressors, so we still stay like balance it out, so gratitude, and we're doing, again, our health, a whole load of good. And what we notice, and this one gets bigger, doesn't it? It's like, you know, when you're going to go buy a particular car you've decided, and then soon you start noticing loads of them. It's that reticular activating system in our brain, and that's really what the gratitude practice is as well. So have you all got a pen and paper? I thought I might just do a little exercise. I know there's some pads around, if you just want to spread it out and share it out. Just to say you're listening to me all evening. Everybody short of a pen. So this is a wellness week, and it just makes us take stock of our life a little bit. So I'll walk you through it, but basically what we ask you to do is, out of between 0 and 10, 10 being the best, is to give your satisfaction score for your life right now in these areas. And it's completely confidential, you don't have to share this with anybody. So if we start at the top with health, how satisfied out of 10, 10 being the best, are you with your health right here and now? And what we're trying to do is we're going to see how wobbly or how smooth your wheel is, because of course if we all had 10, we'd be super smooth, but often there's some little wobbles. And then that just highlights maybe where we didn't pay a bit of attention. So health, hopefully you've done. Next one is weight. How happy are you with your weight? How satisfied? Next one is energy levels. How satisfied are you with those? What about with your personal achievements? Personal development? What about with your job, your work, or your career, or if you're a stay-at-home mum, how satisfying is that for you? How are you feeling about your work life? About purpose. We know as humans that's really important to have a purpose. How satisfied are you with yours right now? What about with your level of happiness? Would you give that out of 10? How often do you allow yourself to have fun? How big is fun in your life? How would you rate your family life? That could be immediate family, could be larger family, however you deem family to be. What about social life and friendships? So I'm doing it quickly because I don't want you to overthink things, it's just your gut answer. And then me time is the next one. How much me time do you get? Is it mum, daughter, wife, partner? And then the final one is fitness. Would you give yourself that? So just do me a little favour now and bring your top 2 scores. Just think about why you've given them that. Why did you give it maybe an 8 and not a 6? What was it? Why did you give them that? And then just say your bottom one for me. What was your lowest score? And that's the one that I would really like to maybe reflect on this evening and think, well, what can I do to change that? What can I do to boost it up? What about you? What's that small action I can take to do that?
The ideal way
Are we alright time-wise? What time do we need to finish? Yeah, is it alright if I go through the other couple of quantifiable lifestyle factors? Because, okay, so sleep is a big one. It's often disrupted, isn't it? So how many of you wake up feeling refreshed in the mornings right now? And then it's often the one that really gets us, isn't it? Do you wake at the same time each day without an alarm? Do you fall asleep within 30 minutes in the evening? Do some dope. So these are all the signs. So all those 3 ideally would want to be yes. That's a sign that we're getting really optimal sleep. Our circadian rhythms working well, and everything's in balance. But often it isn't for people. Sleep is a really fundamental and difficult thing. So just some sleep tips. It's really hard to go go through it in detail, but I have got an ebook which I can send afterwards if it would be helpful, with much more information on sleep. The key thing is, so many of us are kind of busy through the week and then we just sleep in at the weekends, and that's really not what our bodies are designed to do. So if we can try and keep a regular pattern 7 days a week. I know it sounds quite painful if you get up at 7 or 6 through the week and try to do it weekends, but it will just help your body to find a rhythm. Sleep routines are just for kids. We need that. We need to give the signals to our body that we're about to sleep. It's not email from bed and then lie there and think, why can't I sleep? If you've got to wind down, we've got to tell it what's coming. A bit like if we were going out for a run where we warm our body up to tell it we're about to start to move. The environment's really important. So how is your bedroom? How's the temperature? How's the comfort? If you've got lots of mess around you, because that messes with our brains, even subconsciously. What is that like? Is it optimal? What's the temperature like? Often at this time of year particularly, we just have it too hot. We can have it as cool as we can bear it, even with some air on, then perfect, and then just load the layers onto you instead, rather than having the whole room really warm. Think about what you're eating and drinking before you go to bed. So again, we talk about that sugar spike. A lot of people eat their dinner quite late. And so what happens is their sugar, their blood glucose levels go up, and then early hours they drop, and our bodies again go, I'm going hungry, stress response. So it wakes you up, and then you can't always get back to sleep because then the mind starts to race. So try and eat early. If you can, try and leave a reasonable gap before you get to bed. Or if you feel that you do need sleep before you go to bed, maybe a spoonful of butter or raw honey, and it can be good for some people, but most of us don't need to eat just before bed. Some of us have got into these habits of supper or sitting there having snacks in front of the telly. It's often just association and habits that we maybe break. Blue light is an issue for us. It stimulates the brain and makes us think that it's daylight. So when we're on screens, laptops, phones, before bed, it's not going to help us potentially to sleep. And the bottom one says commotion. So that's just about, if you watched the 10 o'clock news and then you think you're going to sleep afterwards, it's going to be tricky, isn't it? Because again, we've just stimulated our brain, we've just told it about all the dangers and stresses, and then we wonder why we can't relax. So just about, what could you do? What to do to wind down? Just like a child would have a bath, a story about what do you need to sleep better? And my top tip really is to get the phones out of the bedrooms, because those things, thousands of people work on making them as addictive as possible to keep us, kind of holding them. And our willpower is not as strong as all of that. And people say to me, but Lynn, it's my alarm clock. And I say, well, go on Amazon, buy one for a few pounds, and get your phone out of your bedroom, because what does everybody do when they do wake up in the night? And then, the brain starts going, the light's there in our face, and we wonder why we can't get back to sleep. I know that's a tough one now. This is my top tip. If you have got nothing else on your Christmas list this year, make it a Lumie alarm clock. Oh my word, life changing for me. So a lot of Olympic athletes use these. And what they do is they light up very gradually in the morning. And so, say it's set for 7 o'clock like that one, when 7 o'clock comes, it feels like it's daylight in your bedroom, which is amazing at this time of year. And also, you don't have to have a me. You can have little tweety birds as well, and just much gentler. It's the way that, again, back to evolution, we were designed to wake up, we were designed to live with the night. To go to bed just when dusk came and it got dark because there was no electricity, and to get up when it was light and go and work out in the fields and to tend our animals. And so it just helps us to get back attuned to how we were meant to be. Movement is the final pillar I was going to talk about, and you'll notice, like I said, move, not exercise, because I was that child at school who hated PE and had the sick notes, and it's really only in the last 10 years that I've discovered exercise movement that I enjoy. And what happened was my hairdresser came and she'd lost quite a lot of weight. What have you done? She said, well, for my 40th I'm going to do a parachute jump, and there's no way I'm going to be heavier than the guy who jumps with me. And so I joined a running club. Running? Sounds horrible. She said, no, I've joined this running club in Darlington, and it's been amazing. I thought, what should you do there? So I started to walk a bit faster. My first race, and I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to end up giving up if I don't do the same. So I joined a running club and found that you could just talk to people, and I like to talk, as you can tell, and very much an extrovert. And so that was my start of my exercise, finding what I loved and fitted with my life. And it's progressed, and now what I find is really helpful is working out at home on a live class every morning at 7. So I've got the accountability of somebody waiting for me, but it means when it's cold and wet, I don't have to go outside because in winter my running would stop. I'd lose confidence, put weight back on, and then have to start again. So it's about finding what works for you and what you enjoy. Top tip around movement is NEAT. So I don't know if you've heard of it, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's what NEAT stands for, and it's about the movements that we make day to day. And we just need to do more of it. So I've got some stats here. I haven't referred to my notes. Oh, I'm quite impressed. The brain's working tonight. See if I can find them. Yes, so here. So obviously as we age, we've got to build muscle. We lose muscle. We're not laying down any new bones, so bone density is really important at this age as well. And we sit apparently for about 70 to 80% of our waking time. And whatever we do most obviously has the biggest impact, doesn't it? And you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet, unfortunately. So we've got to move more. And the kind of alarming thing is, in terms of cardiovascular disease, that there's plaque created within our blood when we're sitting, which exercise can't remove. So gravity is obviously that constant force on us. And when we're sitting, apparently it's similar to bed rest for our bodies, for our bones, our circulation and our metabolism. So what we need to do is these movement snacks, frequent lots of movement, and it doesn't have to be anything massively strenuous all the time. So I've just put some little tips in here, like parking further away when you go to the shops, taking regular water breaks, maybe not having a big pint glass, but a smaller glass that forces you to go more often. Getting a standing desk. I know Julie introduced me to one, I've now got one and I love it. And getting up and going to speak to colleagues at work rather than emailing or ringing them. Setting a prompt, a lot of us have got watches now that can do that on phones or even just on your screen. Just reminding you, because when you're in the middle of emails or busy things, the hours whiz by, don't they? We realise we haven't moved. Take the stairs rather than the escalators when you go shopping or at work, and just stretch regularly. Make it really nutritious movement for your body. And I threw this in. I don't know if you guys know Liz and Molly. I absolutely love their illustrations. And I just thought this was lovely, because often we think that we don't do things, we procrastinate because we're lazy, but actually it usually isn't that at all. So it says here, I might feel inadequate, I might just be stretched too thin, I've got a lot going on in my life right now, and too much to take action, I might be a perfectionist, and so I don't do anything because I have to do it perfectly. I might be scared, because, as humans, again, we've evolved to feel safe, and so any change is seen as a threat, so we avoid it, if we can. And maybe you just didn't know where to start, just felt too overwhelming, too big. And I just thought it was a beautiful illustration, and it just helps us to be kind to ourselves. This is my top tip, so this is to represent gremlin talk, because whose voice do we hear the loudest, the most negatively, the most frequently? And if I think of the way that I used to speak to myself, I would never speak to my children, my friends. If people could hear what I thought in my head, it was vile, honestly. And that's a big thing that I've learned actually over the last few years, is just to be really kind to myself. And I think it's something probably all of us can do even more of. Because actually, again, what happens is when we speak negatively inside our heads, our bodies can't differentiate that between a perceived threat, that saber-toothed tiger coming, and a real one. So again, it creates a stress response subconsciously within our bodies. It's quite powerful when we know that. So ladies, after all that you've heard this evening, you've done your wellness wheels, thank you for lending us the pads. What now for you? Which of those pillars needs some attention in your life? I heard somebody say, I feel well, and they saw that, I wish I did. What can we do to nudge ourselves towards feeling better? Is it your sleep that needs a bit of attention? Do we need to think about changing some foods, taking things out, adding things in? Much easier to add in and start there. Do we just need to move a little bit more? Do we need to be kind and relaxed and find a way to get into that rest and digest state that we talked about? And when we commit to actions, we need to make them smart, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely, like we would do often in work. So when are you going to do it? Really commit to it. What specifically are you going to do? And just start small, Don't set yourself up for failure by going all in. I'm going to do a 10k run when you haven't run for months or something like that. Just go for a little walk around the block. start small. How will you do it? You know, is it on your own? Is it with somebody else? Who will you tell? Who will you be accountable to? You know, a bit of peer pressure could be good, or going out with somebody. But most important, why are you going to do it? So what's your motivator? If you have a vision of your house that you're trying to get to, if you imagine it like a top of a mountain, no, not that one, maybe I've got a picture in, and you're trying to get to there, what's that first small step that you need to take? I love the expression that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. You know, if we don't do something, then that is a vote for our future selves, isn't it? And if we do it, again, a vote for the future selves that we want to be. So, health coaching, what's it all about? Well, behaviour change is blooming hard. You know, we know what we want to do, but we don't always know how to do it for all the reasons I've explained. So health coaching is like any other coaching, like business coaching, you know, financial coaching. It's about getting alongside people, helping them to work out where they want to get to, and just being like their personal cheerleader, shining a light on areas that need to change, holding a mirror up in a very compassionate, gentle way, and just enabling them to find the answers that are within them already, and to commit to doing things that are going to help them to feel better again. So, classic clients for me. So men, a lot of men come to see me because they feel that coaching is less weak than counselling for whatever reason. Clients between the age of 20 and 70, which I never thought I would have. You know, a lot of mental health issues coming out of COVID. People who want to lose weight, who've just lost their zest for life. A lady, a nurse who I've been seeing recently, 60-ish, and just struggled with menopause for years and years. On HRT, just shattered the whole time, doesn't sleep well, probably from the legacy of shifts. Many crash diets over the years, so her weight was really hard to get rid of now, because her body's kind of lost its way, it's lost contact with hunger and satiety signals. But she's got a little granddaughter, and she said, I just really have to get down on the floor and play with her, and have the energy for her as well. So we've been making some really small changes, and what happens when we make one little change is it ripples out, and you get this beautiful virtuous cycle and spiral that goes up. So for her, it was drinking more water, because as a nurse, often she didn't. Starting to add, there's more veg in, but also just with a bit of gratitude. We start each session with what's made you smile, what you're grateful for, and she just hadn't thought about those things for a long time, and now she's doing it more naturally. And you know, those things then start to build, and she said last time, I'm beginning to see some windows of hope again, and you know, a bit of zest for life that I haven't had for years. And it's beautiful, and she is literally terrified of exercise. She thinks that she will die, honestly. She's got a real phobia. But she's been doing Dr. Chatterjee, again, if you're familiar with him, he's got a 5-minute kitchen workout, and she's like, I'm going to commit to this for 2 weeks. And I think that'll just restore my confidence, and I can build from there. And it's beautiful to see. It's such a rewarding thing that I do. Honestly, amazing to see the changes in people. And that, I think the word hope is the one that most of them finish with. You know, just lovely. So the way that I work is I work a lot one-to-one with people. I do group coaching alongside a nutritional therapist, and we're actually, I'll tell you about that in a minute. I do keynote talks, so I go out and do talks like this, and then I go into businesses and charities and do wellbeing programs, because I think a lot of companies want to do more on wellbeing, but they don't know where to start. They're just like, kind of need to tick the box, and actually many want to do more than tick the box, because particularly post-COVID they see the importance of it. But it's just helping them get started with that. So yes, this is what I was going to mention. So this nutritional therapist, Julie, who's amazing, and who I'm doing the programme with at the moment, we want to do support for menopause next spring. So I just thought I'd get some, an indicator of interest in this room, just to see if it's viable. So we'll be looking at things like how food can help or hinder the symptoms, what gets in the way of change, like we've talked about, but much deeper dive. Simple changes which have a big impact, all those lifestyle factors which support hormone balance, getting to know our bodies better, and alleviating the symptoms right now, making some changes. So we run them as usually about 8 weeks, once a week for about an hour and a half online, groups of about 10 to 12 people. It makes it much more affordable, because working one-to-one with her or with me, obviously there's a price tag, whereas this, you get your group together. And the power of group coaching, again, is big in America, because you learn from one another then. You've got that shared experience. You don't just get us, you get everybody else's, and you think, gosh, and you're inspired and motivated, and you come back and you report on your progress each week. It's just lovely. So yeah, would that be of interest maybe to ladies here? Yeah, great. Well, I'll let you know when that goes live, probably February, March time. And the other thing I was going to say was I've got oodles and oodles of resources from my training, but also because I'm passionate about this. My top strength, and those we talked about earlier, is love of learning. So I just always, like Julie, got my head in a book or a podcast. So if you want any recommendations, I can send them. But equally, lots of handouts. So if you want to start and keep a record of your food and your mood, for example, and track those colours, I can send you things to help you with that. Adverse food reactions, if you think, oh God, actually I've noticed that when I eat that, I bloat, or oh, I don't feel so good. You can start to understand that better. Probiotic and prebiotic foods, so how we feed our gut, and hundreds of other things. So if you've all got my card, or if you haven't, I'll give you one. Email me if you want anything at all. I'm pretty sure I'll have it with a signed potion to it. And again, some other things I've got, things like when you're eating out, what to look for, because that can be tricky sometimes, can't it? Healthy lifestyle habits, so again a bit of reflection time, what do I need to do less of, what could I do more, just helping you maybe if you want to start journaling. I've got lots of things on that as well. And finally, that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Any questions?
You said a spoonful of butter before bed.
Nut butter. So really, I think
I was just thinking like put a spoon.
no, oh gosh, no.